Welcome back to the Seven Figure Flipping Podcast. I've got my amazing co-host today, Dr. Sheri Fluellen, and we're doing something completely different. Welcome to a new series that we're putting on. It's called The Bottom Line, where real stories meet real numbers. No fluff, just the good stuff. In each episode, we're going to bring you real-world investing insights, strategies, and stories from our own deals and experiences from in the field from all the people that are in our world in the seven-figure flipping community. And at the end of the episode, we're taking calls from our listeners where we will tackle their hardest questions. Dr. Sheri, let's get after another good show.
I'm so excited for this new episode format. It's going to be so fun, and you've got so many value bombs to add that I'm really excited to even hear what you're going to have to say today.
Amazing. Yes, so exciting. Okay, today we're going to tackle some of what we call the inner game, some of the mindset stuff, which you're a legitimate professional and expert in. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on in my business and some very specific problems we've had recently and how we've solved those. And then we'll go through the listener questions. So with that said, let's get into the inner game. I know you have some really good stuff for us today.
I love it. So just to give our listeners a little bit of background, I am a legit psychologist, went all the way through my PhD to learn it and to be able to understand how to serve other people and kind of help them through challenges. About 5 years ago, I formally shifted into doing high performance coaching. And so I do that with entrepreneurs and a lot of people in the real estate investing space, investors, but also realtors and brokers. So that's the background I'm coming with. And I'm also coming at this with, I am so not perfect at my own mindset. And I have had to learn and pivot in my own inner game over the years. And so as I was thinking about what might be valuable to talk about or share today, there's one thing that stuck out. So I had the privilege of being on this podcast for the first time a couple months ago. Adam, do you remember when you interviewed my husband and myself?
Yes, it was like such a fun interview. Your guys' dynamics and personalities are so different, but so cool.
They are very different. So you said something to me that literally out of everything we talked about, this is the only thing that stuck in my memory. So you said something, you reflected to me, something that you noticed. I bet you're like, what? What did I say? You said, oh, wow, Sheri, you're like a really like a ready, fire, aim kind of gal. Do you remember when you said that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what happened. Here was the inner game that happened when you said that. I heard that and I was like, what the crap? That is not how I see myself. That is not my identity. And I didn't realize that that's the vibe I'm putting off now, because fast forward or rewind rather 10, 20 years ago, I would totally say I'm a perfectionist. Like I do everything like perfectly or really well. And if I can't do it really well, I won't even start. I think back when I was in 8th grade and it was my first year trying basketball as a sport in school. And I sucked miserably. I was really mediocre. And there were some really good girls on our team that just like lit up the room with their skills and abilities. And because I was mediocre, I didn't enjoy it and I didn't stay. And that's like an example of how I have lived a lot of my life, is that if I'm not really good at it, naturally, I'm like, I don't know that I really want to do this. So that's the frame of how I've seen myself for much of my life. And so, Adam, when you said, oh, you're kind of like the, ready, fire, aim girl, I'm like, how have I pivoted into this type of investor who isn't focused on perfection anymore and is willing to take risks and willing to do things imperfectly? In my work as a psychologist and a coach with other investors, other entrepreneurs, there is one challenge that I see and hear people say over and over and over it again. And it's the term analysis paralysis. We've all heard it. I know we've all lived it. Adam, can you even think of a time in the last month where you fell into analysis paralysis?
Yeah, I think I can think of a couple of times where it's usually on something new or unknown and I feel uncomfortable with it and I'm trying to wrestle and get my mind around it, but I'm like almost stalled and not doing anything because I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I've done is I just broke out like 3 simple things that we can think about when we are in the space that we're concerned about analysis paralysis. And so I'm just going to touch on these quick and, take them, use them if they serve you. And if you do find any of these 3 things valuable in when you apply them to your life, I would love to hear about it and celebrate getting unstuck with you. The first one for me was huge. It's the idea of be directionally accurate, not perfect. And so an example of that is there have been periods of my life where I have felt stuck, but part of that is because I didn't have a clear idea of where I was headed. So one of the big moments that this happened is I had a private practice. So as a psychologist, I had started a practice where I live and I had grown it and I had a team of therapists. And there was a lot of stuff. I won't go into details right now. You'll have to, listen to a different podcast for that. But I had a lot of challenges as a leader, as a business owner in that business. And it was dominating my energy. I was hugely stressed out, but I didn't know what else to do. And so I stuck with it and I continued to try to fix it and to hang with it, even though it was really, when I look backwards, it was really clear I probably should have let it go. But I didn't know what I was going towards. And I definitely am not a person who likes to run away from stuff. And so until I knew what I was running towards, that was the pivot moment. And so, but I didn't know exactly what I was running towards. It was kind of like I had this like vision, kind of a fuzzy vision. So if you're thinking about real estate investing, you're like, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like 10 years from now. That's okay. But if you have like even just like a hazy vision of what real estate investing could do for you or how it could be part of your life, that might be enough. That's directionally accurate. And you don't need to know all the details. You don't need to perfectly have mapped out exactly how many deals you need to do every month or every year. You don't have to have all of the details spelled out on how you're going to get and find those deals and how you're going to grow your team. You don't have to have all those details. Just be directionally accurate. Have a perspective of where you're headed. And if you have confidence in that general accuracy, that's good enough. So that was kind of one of the things that I've noticed has shifted for me over the years to allow me to kind of get out of that analysis paralysis. I don't have to have the entire journey mapped out. Adam, what are your thoughts on that?
I love this point. Oh my gosh, I can relate to this so deeply. And I'm going to give you a really part of my journey that changed everything for me with this concept. When I came into the 7-figure flipping community, I joined Runway. I didn't have any deal experience, at least not flipping and wholesaling. I'd bought rentals at the time. But I came in and I was just like a student, right? And I would learn and I would implement. I would learn and I would implement. So I was doing the things, but what I really found myself getting into was I'm on like day 1, chapter 1, and I'm seeing all these experienced investors. And I remember very specifically, I was being coached by Stephen Casey Tackett, who I love dearly. And, they've got this beautiful 7-figure flipping and wholesaling business, and they're just giving me all the goods. And I'm trying to figure the whole business out from A to Z. Like I want the whole thing built and I want it all built next week. And I remember they got on a call with me and they go, Adam, can I just be honest with you? Like, I really need you to stop trying to build the entire business and just focus on what you need to do right now and work to the next bottleneck, and then figure that bottleneck out, and then work to the next bottleneck and figure that bottleneck out. And they had probably told me these things and I'd probably heard these things and the coaches were coaching me up. But it was in that moment that I realized I was too focused. I knew directionally where I was going. I had done that part, but I was still trying to control and build the whole thing and trying to, like, it needs to be all built out and perfect. And it was like, no, I need to just be directionally accurate and go on the path, tackle one thing and then the next thing and then the next thing. And it, like, for whatever reason, it just clicked for me. And that's when I started to just trust the process. Yeah. Like it was like my faith had kicked in. I believe it. I see it. If I just do the next thing and then I'll figure that out and then I'll do the next thing after that. And that has served me so well. And I also want to say, the ready, fire, aim analogy there comes from the book Ready, Fire, Aim. And it's a great book. And it's really about the visionaries who are strong in their faith and their direction. Like you're talking about being directionally accurate. And it's like entrepreneurship in general. Like you're just willing to go. I'm going to walk the path. You pointed me and I'm going to walk the path. So, when I said that, it's because I believe that you're a great visionary. I believe that you're a great business owner. I believe that you're a great leader in this space. And I hope you took that as complimentary. I know that might have felt like a shot at your, like, how good and detail oriented you are and well planned you are, which you are super well planned, which is why you text me and like, we better be on point in this podcast. And I'm like, So no, I love that, Sheri. I think that's such a great point. It was that one of the most impactful moments in my career to date, actually.
Yeah. Well, Adam, honestly, at the moment, I took slight offense to it because of exactly that. I'm like, I don't want to look like I'm just, haphazardly living life. But afterwards, as I reflected back, that's when I was like, oh, actually, that's what's required of good entrepreneurship, is being able to have this ability to be directionally accurate and be able to take action without it having to be perfect, which is like the mantra that I've had to retrain my brain in. And so that's kind of the second piece of this, that is the retraining my brain to truly believe and accept that imperfect action is what is required of me. And rather than trying to make my entrepreneurial journey fit my inaccurate self-beliefs and perspectives, I need to change my beliefs and perspectives to fit what the entrepreneurial journey is and requires of me. And so wrapping my brain around that and being able to embrace imperfect action has been a game changer for me, because then when I get to the next situation where I could easily spin my wheels and analysis paralysis, I could be like, okay, Sheri, wait a minute. And literally I talk to myself in my brain like this. I have to coach myself. I'm like, okay, Sheri, remember that thing you did 3 months ago that you didn't really know exactly what you were doing, but you did action anyway. And yeah, you made some mistakes and you screwed up a few things, but it wasn't the end of the world. And if you hadn't done that, then this thing wouldn't have happened. So I see and recognize how all of the building blocks that I'm laying down that are imperfect are still materializing into the journey that I'm wanting. I remind myself of that. So that imperfect action, I think, is so critical. So let me share an example of how I'm living that. I had a conversation with my husband literally 2 days ago. So we've been dependent as flippers. We've been dependent on wholesalers and the MLS for all of our leads. And like so many other real estate investors in our community and outside of our community, there's a lot of us right now that are like, this just is not working. I do not want to be beholden to somebody else's lead gen, their determination of what numbers are going to work and all of that. So I made this decision with my husband, who's also on this journey with me, probably 5 or 6 months ago, we are going to need to start marketing to sellers directly and start, getting our own deals and negotiating and doing some of those things. But the traction of actually getting all of that in place has been quite slow. Since Cancun, since the awesome mastermind where we were sweating because it was just so amazingly warm out, beautifully warm out, I have put a lot of things into action. And so in my step taking process of imperfect action, I sat down with my husband the other day because I'm the planner. I'm like the one that gets all the things created, and I just tell him what to do and where to be. And so I was running through my marketing plan, and I'm like, this is what we're going to do. This is the list we're going to buy. This is the company we're going to use. These are the things. And he starts asking me some questions, legitimate questions of like, well, like, how is this going to come in on my phone? And, because he's going to be answering the calls initially. He's asking me some of these questions, and I noticed I was starting to get irritated with him. I'm like, I don't know those answers yet. It doesn't matter. Like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And it was in that moment that I was like, oh yeah, like this is okay. I don't know those answers yet. I have a meeting this afternoon to figure them out, but I didn't know yet. And that didn't matter. It was okay that I didn't have every step planned out on how the lead gen and the workflow is going to go yet, because I know we can figure it out and we've got the right resources. I just haven't plugged them in yet. So that's an example just this week of how we made a commitment. We are directionally clear that direct to seller marketing is necessary, is required for our business to really increase with profitability and that sort of thing. And now it's just figuring out the details, but I don't have them all figured out right now. And that's okay.
Well, first off, yeah, I'm excited because I love direct to seller marketing and controlling your deal flow. And I also like to say I'm really proud of you because I talk to flippers all the time, and they're like, I'm gonna do marketing, and I'm like, do you need to do marketing yet? And I really encourage them to maximize their current deal acquisition. I think a lot of us, particularly in our L2 community, have done that really well. Maximize the wholesalers, maximize MLS, and then the next natural evolution is getting into your direct to seller marketing. But this is an indication of your leadership and visionary skills in your guys' business, even with JP, your husband. It's really impressive. This is why you win more than you lose, because you've built enough confidence over time that you can rely on your faith that you'll do the thing, you have the skills. And, JP is a great closer. JP will be fantastic on the phone. He's just a great connector of humans, and it will work out. Will there be challenges? Yeah, oh, absolutely. But it's just really impressive to watch. And I'm excited for you because, you can always just call me and we can dive deep into any of the details. I love that kind of stuff. So that's great. I love it. I agree with you. And be directionally accurate. I love it. What's the next thing?
So the last thing that I reflected on is around recognizing for myself that perfection, because I definitely am a recovering perfectionist, that is really just fear in disguise. Like that is our mechanism to try to overcome the fear that's going on inside of us. And I think the fear is typically, it's fear of judgment. It's fear of judgment either from other people or it's fear of judgment from ourselves. And I think our own fear of judgment is the most powerful and potentially most crippling fear, because it's the core of who we believe we are. And if I hold on to an identity, which I did for many, many years, if I hold on to this identity that I'm a super smart woman, super capable, just an amazing woman, and at the same time, I don't allow for a super smart woman to also make mistakes, and that's okay, and it's part of the journey. If I don't hold both of those beliefs at the same time, then I'm going to be stuck with the fear of that if something happens wrong, then that means I'm no longer the kind of woman that I thought I was. And even if everybody else around me is saying, oh, you're awesome, like, it's okay, just pick yourself and, up and shake it off. If I don't have that belief inside that I am okay and this is okay and that doesn't change who I am, if I'm judging myself, that's a deal breaker for my ability to persevere and to achieve the things I want. And so that to me factors into the analysis paralysis that I've experienced. So it's ultimately it's accepting that imperfection is okay. When I have the tendency to want to be perfect, it's really just me trying to cover up the fear of something. And so when I take the time to peel back the layers and figure out what's really going on inside, inside kind of like the onion, then that's where I can have that breakthrough and not let that fear actually control my behavior.
Let me ask you a quick question about this, because
Uh-oh.
I think this really helps me. In your life, you've solved a million problems. It could be as small as, the kids need food, or, it could be anything. On a day-to-day basis, every day you solve some problem. Somebody brings you a problem, you solve it.
Yes.
If you could put a percentage to what's your level of success in solving problems on a daily basis? Can you think of times where there's a problem and you haven't been able to solve it?
Yes. Interesting.
How often is that? I'm guessing it's very seldom.
When you asked me that question, the first thought was like, like all the times that I've solved problems popped in first, but then like the one big problem that really shook my confidence as a human, as a business owner, as a leader, like that was a problem that I don't feel like I was able to solve. And so what your question brings out for me is that my lack of confidence or my perfectionistic tendencies, which are based on fear, in the recent past is based on like one scenario where maybe I feel like I couldn't figure it out, rather than all of the hundreds and thousands of decisions I make every week.
Every day, every week. You have a 99% success rate on solving problems.
Yeah.
Which, when you really think about that, it's like, this is like that whole ready, fire, aim. You want to be correct. You want to be right. You want to have success. But none of that actually happens without solving a myriad of problems along the way. So I think when we think about this, it's like, it's scary. There's fear. I have fear to jump into real estate. I have fear to do the next deal. I have fear to make the offer. I have fear to buy that house. I have fear. Everything, right? Like, what if something goes wrong?
Yeah.
And then you think about this as a decision maker, as a leader, and there's something called confirmation bias, right? Or sample size bias. Okay. Sample size bias is probably a great example here. I do something 100 times. One time it goes poorly. I go, I'm never doing that again. But what about the 99 times that it went well? Like, think about that logically. So for me, this is like the journey. Get directionally accurate. Go. There are going to be problems to solve. Your success rate on solving problems is 99%. Bet on yourself.
Yeah.
And I've realized that over time, as I think of all the hard things I've done in my life, it's like, by and large, I'm the same. It's like probably 99% success rate. I can't even think of something, a meaningful problem that I haven't been able to solve. Or if I wasn't able to solve it, in the grand scheme of things, the fact that I didn't solve it made minimal impact on my life, actually.
Yeah. So two thoughts I have with what you're saying, Adam. The first is to use an analogy that I think many of us could really understand is the idea of a phobia. Phobias develop because of that, what you were talking about, 99% of the time, it's fine. It's that 1% of the time that colors everything after that. That is literally what a phobia is there's one negative experience and our brain and our emotional system comes up with this, what it thinks is a protective strategy so that 1% thing doesn't ever happen again. So we can recognize phobias in other people and be like, that's super irrational. Like, what the heck? Afraid of a spider. Okay. Or whatever it might be. So I think that's like a real world scenario that a lot of us can understand is irrational. So then the question I would ask is like, well, how is that a rationality playing out in our own life, but not in a phobia kind of way, but kind of this, yeah, I made a decision once that didn't turn out the way I wanted it to be. I frame it as a failure, and therefore I won't ever do that again. The other thing that I would like to point out is, was it really a failure? Because here's the thing. The one thing that came to mind when you asked me that, Adam, the one thing that happened that I didn't feel like I could solve or fix it, if that event didn't happen, I would literally not be sitting here having this conversation with you today. I would not have pivoted into real estate even more. I would not have met so many amazing people that I've had an opportunity to meet. I would not have had an opportunity to increase my connection with my husband by being a dual entrepreneur in the same business family, because we were both doing different businesses. There are so many benefits and values. My kids would not have learned as much as they would have right now. Like, our life would be very different. So there is a lot of value in being able to reinterpret those failures as the way that I interpreted it. It was maybe God rescuing me from a decision that I didn't realize wasn't in my best interest, and accepting a different path.
Incredible. Yeah. And I think if you can think back to challenging things that you got beyond, whether you felt like it was successful or unsuccessful, I can think back to all the things where I'm like, that didn't go as well as I wanted. But because of that, this, and this happened. And those things are the things I actually wanted or needed. I just didn't know it. So yeah, I mean, there's a plan, there's a plan. And this is why I see some of the most successful people, to your point, being directionally accurate and going and having faith and then gaining confidence over time. Because as you go in that direction and you solve those problems and you realize, hey, I have a 99% success rate on solving problems, your confidence increases. The problems that you start to solve become bigger, which means the triumph on the back end starts to become bigger. And it's this weird snowball of success. And look, it doesn't happen in 3 months or 6 months. But when you look back over a year or 5 years or 10 years, you go, how in the world did I get here? This is crazy.
Yeah. So as you're listening to this, listeners of the 7-Figure Flipping podcast, if you recognize any of these aspects in your own life, I really, really encourage you to take a little bit of reflection, figure out, okay, where are these things? Where is analysis paralysis, perfectionism, not having a growth mindset? Where are these things holding me back? Take a minute to verbalize that to somebody in your life that cares for you, that's cheering you on, and figure out how can I take another step in the direction of doing the thing that I'm afraid of, or that I don't have 100% clarity on, but I still feel like maybe it's still the right thing. Figure out how you can use any of these three aspects to move yourself even 1 inch forward.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Man, I love this new format. I love the inner mind. It's amazing.
Inner mind is amazing and sometimes a bit scary, but
it's a little bit scary. It's like, watch Dr. Fluellen make this Marine talk about his feelings. No.
Yeah, I will make you cry at some point, Adam. That is going to be my mission.
Oh man. Challenge accepted. Okay, cool. This is really fun. Okay, so for the next segment of the show, we get to talk about what's working now in real estate. And I think we talk a lot about what's working now, the successes, and in context, like our investment business is doing very well, on track to hit multiple 7 figures, 50% net margin. Like, people are like, wow, everything is just like hunky dory, but that's not the entire truth. In fact, I want to talk about something that wasn't working in the last 2 or 3 weeks that we discovered and were able to solve the problem and fix it and got ourselves back on track in our business.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear this.
For us in Blackjack, we do direct to seller marketing, we wholesale houses, we flip houses, we novate, we do it all, right? We have all the tools in our tool belt. And the whole company, the whole operation is basically a conveyor belt. The leads come into the front of the conveyor belt through some type of marketing. They get converted in conversations, and then we disposition those houses in whatever the appropriate exit strategy is. That's just kind of fundamentally the business. But it all starts at the front end, Dr. Fluellen. It all starts at the front end. I stimulate the environment with some marketing and I get a response. That could be inherently, that's like outbound or inbound. And for us, we do multi-channel, omnipresent marketing. So we get data first. We determine our targets, like our target marketing, like who's the right people we should be talking to. We gather that data, and then we do some outbound, and we send it some mail, which is also outbound, but then directs them back inbound. So that's the context around this. It all starts with the data. So we get the data. The data comes from a tool that we had built that goes out and goes to certain places on the internet, and it captures the data, brings it in to a sheet. So over the last 3 weeks, what we noticed was the amount of data coming to the sheet was congruent. The number was correct. It wasn't going way down, it wasn't going way up. It was about what it normally is. But once we've cleaned that data up and deduplicated it, took the stuff off that don't fit our buy box, we have like what we would consider net. Like that's the net data we're going to go after. That's new data that meets all the criteria. So the amount of raw data was coming in smooth as can be, but the amount of net data was going down. And that is the top of the marketing funnel. So everything underneath that, the conversations we're having, the appointments we're setting, the offers we're making, the contracts we're signing, the houses we're buying, those numbers all started to go down too. So we got 3 weeks and I'm going, why is our number of appointments going down? And me and Lindsay are trying to figure this out. Well, we haven't signed a contract in a couple of weeks. That's like crazy. And we had to go back and dissect the entire funnel. Thankfully, we track all of our data in great detail, and we can just look at the numbers and go, let's look at this part of the funnel and figure out why that number and that number, the ratio has changed. So we dig into it. And what we realize is our tool that's getting this data it has like some kind of failure. It's not doing it appropriately, something where it gets it from change. So therefore it wasn't getting all the things we needed, but it took us 2.5 weeks to identify the problem, which gave us 2.5 weeks where we weren't getting the result that we would normally expect. And this week we identified that, we went back to the tool, we fixed the tool, and then we got literally flooded with the appropriate data, which was really cool to see because that then flooded our calendars with appointments to talk to and serve homeowners. And then, so we solved that problem on like Monday, Tuesday. And then yesterday, as I was leaving the office, we were like saying yes to signing a deal up.
That's awesome.
And you know, the win there, I could go, Sheri, we just signed a deal yesterday and it's awesome. We're going to help somebody and we're going to make a bunch of money. But what really happened was we had a whole bunch of problems, and for 2 weeks we couldn't figure it out. And then all of a sudden we figured it out, and then it got the result we were looking for. So when I fundamentally think about what we do in our industry, a lot of it has to do with acquiring houses that fit some type of investment buy box. And there's lots of ways to do that. But when you do that with intention, you do that by measuring things. And if you don't measure those things, you're directionally inaccurate. You think what's worse than being, you can be directionally accurate and going the way you're supposed to be going, or you could be not going at all, right? The opposite. We were talking about this dichotomy: analysis paralysis, not doing anything, directionally inaccurate, or directionally accurate, going and figuring it out. But then the worst case scenario is going the wrong direction, being directionally inaccurate. And you're going and you have faith, but you're going in the wrong way. And in this case, because we track our data, because we we know what our numbers are, we do this in a systematic way, we can stay directionally accurate instead of we could have just kept doing that same thing for 2 or 3 months and not bringing any deals into the business, not bringing any money into the business. Cause we're there's like two things. Are you doing the right thing and are you doing it the right way? It's like, yes, I'm doing the right thing, but I wasn't doing it in the right way. There was something broken. I had to fix it.
Yeah. Business growth and entrepreneurship is all about constraints happening and then fixing them. And then more constraints happen and then you fix them. And then more constraints happen. Like this is the life of and journey of entrepreneurship. No business ever doesn't have challenges, things that go wrong, or constraints that, like for example, if you start marketing and all of a sudden you have all the leads flooding in, that's amazing. And now you have a constraint on your sales team or your salesperson, or, so it's always fix, another thing broken, and you fix, and then another thing broken. And so I think it's important to just have that as the foundation again of this conversation, is that this is what happens. What I would love to hear, Adam, is at what point did you notice in your business that there was something wrong? Like, what was the thing that you're like, wait a minute? And then what did you do once you're like, something isn't working, something's wrong?
Yeah, it would not be probably the second week. The first week, it's just, because there's a delay in a result. So a thing happens and then after the fact, you get a result. So a lead activity is happening to produce a lag result. So we're doing the lead activity, and I needed enough time to pass to realize the result wasn't going to be produced. So it was at least a week after. And I go, we review the numbers the next week. We go, well, that's not good. Our results are getting worse from the lead activity. Something looks off. And then you just kind of like ponder it. It's like, well, then we start rationalizing. Maybe it was a bad week. Maybe the data was just bad that week. Like we went through the whole thought process. And then the next week happens and it's like the same. And we're like, okay, something's broken. Let's look at the data. So this is week, towards the end of week 2, which was last week. And let's start to deep dive as we get our hands around the data the end of last week. And we notice like, we think we found the constraint. This top of the funnel isn't producing the same amount on the next step down. And we looked into it and it looks like it's missing information. So then on early this week, we go into it, we figure it out. We talked to our guy who built the tool. He goes, oh, yep, I see the problem. I fixed it. And then by Tuesday, it's like flood. Now we're flooded. Now the lead activity is producing the result that we expect. And everything else along the funnel is like back in flow.
Yeah, I love that. I appreciate you breaking that down. So here's what crosses my mind as I'm listening to you. Oh crap, I don't have my systems dialed in that clearly to know how, where the breakdown happens. And then here's the counterpoint. I said in my brain, when my brain said, oh crap, I don't have that, it is that, and I will build that at some point in the near future. And so again, I just wanted to break down, again, I have to coach myself all the time inside my own mind. It's okay that I don't have all of that stuff built out because we're still in the process of implementing some of these things. Now ask me in a year from now, and if I don't have some systems, identified and spreadsheets and all of that stuff flowing in so that I could identify as easily as you did, if I don't have that a year from now, that's on me. But it's okay that right now I don't have that all built out.
Yep. And you will, no doubt in my mind. You definitely will. And I think that system, when we launched that particular campaign, we make some assumptions. We go, if we do this, we think it will result in this. So then we go, okay, let's test that theory. We did the thing and it produced a result. And we go, okay, now we have some actual data. If we do that this many times, it produces this. Okay, let's let's turn it up a little bit. Is that still true? Excuse me. Is that still true? And then what's really cool, when you do the right things for long enough and you're tracking it, and it becomes predictable.
Yeah.
And then once it's predictable and you go, I inject this and it doesn't output that. You go, okay, wait a minute, something's wrong. But that definitely, this is like, for this particular campaign, it's been since September. So whatever that is, 7 or 8 months. So quite some time.
Yeah. So Adam,
and it took us that long to get normalized data of us doing the thing and producing the result.
And as you share this, Adam, what would be, from your perspective, a takeaway that you would love the listeners to get where they can apply that to their own business?
The takeaway is, if you don't know your numbers, you don't have a business, but you don't have to know your numbers on day one. What I would tell you to do in your business is just to track the appropriate data over time. And don't just track it and plug it into a spreadsheet, but think about it critically and what it means. If I put this input, what output do I get, and where can I find the efficiencies in that? Like, what activity can I do to make it more efficient? You can't think about your business systematically like that unless you're willing to put in the front end work and, one, make a hypothesis. If I do this, I expect it to produce that. And then two, actually track that data in an accurate way over time, and then routinely look at it and analyze it. We do that in a weekly meeting. We call it our level 10 meeting. We go through all of our most important data to see how our business is doing.
I love that, and super inspiring for me as I'm behind you on the scale side of real estate. I'm not anywhere near the size of deal flow and all of those sorts of things. So I appreciate you peeling back the curtain for me and everybody else on what's going on and the challenges you're having and how you're overcoming that. And I think that's just super valuable and inspiring.
Love it. And let me light the way, but also let me just remind everybody that comparison is the thief of joy. You know, I would hope that as I look to people beyond me, I try to think in terms of being inspired and, you know, like excited to go along that similar path, rather than like, oh, they have that and I don't, which I know that's not where your mind is. But just for our listeners, you know, comparison is the thief of joy. You know, people ahead of you that's inspirational and aspirational for you. That's a direction that helps you get your directional accuracy. And I'm excited for you because, like, I know in 6 months, we're going to be like looking at your spreadsheet and going, this is so cool. You guys are doing it so well. Or, ooh, let's make this tweak. I bet if you do this, you'll get this result.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited for that. I'm a spreadsheet nerd. I absolutely love spreadsheets. And all of the functionality that comes with them and creating like new functions within cells that bring information. And oh my gosh, yeah, I'm a little bit weird like that, but that's why I love that part of the real estate business. And my husband, as I've said before, like he's the sales guy. He's the one that likes to have the conversation, negotiations, figure all that stuff out. And that just like increases my heart rate. Like I'll do it. And I think at times I can be good at it, but it's still, I have a physiological response to negotiating and to having to deal with some of that stuff. So I'm like, if I want to live as long as I can, I should not be doing that every day, every week. But he is like, I look forward to that challenge. I'm like, good. I think it's just recognizing what you're good at and deep diving into that.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Are you ready to listen to today's question and see if we can tackle it?
Absolutely.
All right, let's queue up the question.
Hey, Adam, you've accomplished an immense amount of things in the last 5 years, and it's pretty clear that getting in the right rooms has been important to your growth. So my question for you is, when is the right point for a new investor to seek education and leveling up through access to the right rooms? And the reason I ask this is because when someone's first entering the world of real estate investing, paying something like $10,000 or $25,000 for a real estate mastermind feels really expensive at that time, and they might feel like they can't afford it. So when within that first 6 or 12 or maybe 24 months of starting the real estate investing journey is the right point for someone to access a room with the right players that will help them level up. Appreciate you.
Okay. Dr. Sheri Fluellen, I actually want to hear your response to this question first. I mean, you and I, we have paid to be in multiple different rooms, which brought us together, thankfully, in seven-figure flipping. I am excited, like seriously excited to hear your position on this. I have strong opinions, but I definitely want to hear you go first.
Awesome, Adam. As I think about that, first of all, I feel that the belief that paying for a membership or a community or something like that, we need to not look at it as an expense, but rather as an investment. So I think that is the first most important foundational framework. This is an investment, not just an expense. So then as you think about it as an investment, I think the investment can go one of two ways. It will either help you clarify what it is that you want so you can move faster and farther. Or I've had this experience. I was part of ClickFunnels, 2 Comma Club for a little bit. That was part of my journey of like, oh, maybe I'll use this. And so that was like a 22,000 a year program or something like that. I was part of that and have absolutely did not end up doing anything with it or making any meaningful progress. And that would be an example where it didn't lead me towards something, but it helped give me clarity about what I didn't want. And I think both of those perspectives is hugely important. So will the membership or the community provide you to go faster and farther and clarity in what you want? Or can it be an opportunity, worst case scenario, where it helps you figure out what you don't want? That also happened with me in syndications. I deep dived into syndications for a while, for about a year and a half, thinking, oh, that's going to be my next step in real estate. And through the learning and through all that year and a half of time, energy, trips, all that sort of stuff, I realized actually that's not what I want my next step to be. I do not look at that time as a waste. I'm very, very appreciative because I know a lot more about it, but I'm able to harness what I know about myself and even the information I learned about that into the direction I am going. So I think see it as an investment, as an investment of either helping you clarify where you're going or where you don't want to go. And then the last piece is, I think it just based on your risk tolerance. If you make a ton of money, is that investment gonna completely ruin your life if it doesn't result in what you expected it to be? So I think there's a practicality piece to that. But even with that, sometimes we think, oh, like I can't afford $10,000 when really it's not going to impact your life hardly anything if nothing materially comes out of it. So I think we really need to examine our assumptions of how much we can afford. I use that in quotations. So that's kind of my thoughts. What do you think, Adam? How do you respond to your amazingness?
Yeah.
You've grown.
I love it because it's a reframe from expense to investment, which it is. And let's draw a parallel real quick. On average, students leave their undergraduate degree with at least with an average of $40,000 in debt. And they do that to make on average $68,000 a year. Okay. We are very normalized in going to college. Like you went to college, a lot of it. I went to college for undergraduate and graduate. I don't use any of those things that I went to college for to get a job because that's not what I do. You could say some of the intangible skills I use, but really I don't use any of the education type skills from history or international relations in being a real estate investor. But I didn't think twice about going to college. Like I did, like it was an evolution in my life that was a positive thing. So I invested that money to get the college degree, which didn't result in me becoming a multimillionaire, right? Like, which is like a lot of people come to the real estate space. Like, how do I build wealth and do the things that real estate helps you do? Okay. So there's that parallel. And then we go to self-education, where we go into these masterminds, these coaching communities, and we think we have this negative connotation about making that investment sometimes. And it is a good chunk of change for so many. So I totally understand the reservation on it. Somebody had said to me as I was looking to join this particular community, and they said like, well, like what would it look like if you just go do this on your own? And we kind of talked through that, and it's like, well, it seems like you can't afford not to do this, because if you go do that on your own, that could take you 3 to 5 years. If you come in here, it could take you a year or 2 years, and you buy speed with these things. So I get to come in the room and sit at the table with you, Dr. Fluellen, and you've made some mistakes, things you're an expert at, and you can go, hey, this is how you do that. Let me show you precisely the things to avoid. That alone is worth the price of admission. The other thing I would say about specifically when's the right point to seek the education and level up your community, I think there's two things. Are you really ready to take action? Like, are you really ready to do the thing? Are you coachable? If the answer is yes, I go back to the 99% success rate on solving problems. A lot of these communities, if you do the things that these educators or coaches or even the people you're in the room with are telling you to do, will lead to success over time. Doesn't mean you'll be successful next week or in 3 months or in 6 months or even a year in some cases. But if you do the thing long enough and you follow the path, I'm literally have seen so many people, the people who follow the path, do the thing long enough, solve the problems. I look around, these are all the successful friends I have. They've all been down that path. So you will be successful. How quickly, I don't know. But it really depends on your ability and desire to take action. Like, do you want the goal that you're setting, the reason you're chasing this dream, more than you want to stay in your current position? So if you're like, I want something different, I feel called, I like real estate, I want to join this real estate mastermind, but you have fear, well, obviously you're not feeling enough. Like, you don't want to leave that bad, because if you did, you're going to make the leap. And if you make the leap, I think by and large, you'll be successful over time. So the right time to me is when you're coachable and ready to do the thing. When the student is ready, the mentor will appear type thing. But you got to be ready. You got to be ready to go. And you'll make all kinds of excuses. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have that. To me, that means you're not ready. Like, stop with the excuses. Like, most successful people I know found a way in spite of all of our challenges. None of us are unique. I was in the military doing this at the same time. Who cares? So what? Dr. Flellen's a mom and a PhD, and like, she had all the reasons not to do it too. But she felt called to do it, and she felt called to do it with her family, and she felt called to do it and get in the room with, people that aligned with her values. Like, to me, that's that you're ready when you're ready to make the jump, when you're ready to be coachable and take action. Because I know, like, I just told somebody yesterday, I feel so confident if people follow the path and get, like, if you do the things I tell you to do over time, I feel like I can guarantee your success. I really genuinely feel that way, because I've seen it so many times. Now, if you come into one of these communities and you don't do anything, but you expect the community to create the result for you, like, that'll never happen. They will never do the thing for you and create the result for you. You have to create the result. They're just showing you the path. They're helping you. You're buying speed.
I think that's a fantastic answer. Absolutely. Are you ready to take action? And when you are, you can borrow the confidence from everybody else in the group. If you don't have the confidence yourself, but if you're ready to take action, you're good to go. Join us, or join whatever community makes sense for you.
For sure. Yeah. And this is the other one. I'll just hit this one real quick, because I'm very passionate about this. People are like, I want to join a mastermind. Which one should I join? Well, number one, look at the leader. Is the leader somebody that matches your core values, and have they done the thing that you want to do? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, great. Now look at the people in the community. Are those people you want to do life with? Like, in 7FF, Bill and I always say, like, this community is great because we want to do life with our people. Like, I want to go to Cancun with the Fluellens and dance on the beach with the Fluellen kids. Like, I want to do life with you guys. Like, we're value matches. So is the leader doing the thing that you want to do, and have they done it successfully? Do they match your core values? Do the people in the community match your values? And do you want to do life with them? If those two things are true, make the jump. That's your community. Okay, we got to wrap. By the way, we designed this episode to be a lot shorter, but it looks like we just had way too much fun today. We're going to do final takeaways and wrap this thing up. My biggest takeaway today, Dr. Fluellen, was the directional accuracy. Such a good point. I love it. Like, just pick the direction and go. Stop trying to figure it all out. Work to the next bottleneck. That's what allowed me to build my confidence and have faith that when I do, the more I did that, the more successful I became, which built my confidence. And then it just allowed me to keep going and taking on bigger and bigger and bigger problems. So thank you for bringing that up today. That was my biggest takeaway. How about you?
Great. My pleasure for bringing that to your awareness today, Adam. What I take away from my own journey is, as you shared about your spreadsheet and about all the KPIs you track and how diligent you are with them, it really does help me aspire, not compare, but aspire what my journey down the road will be. And I so look forward to where our lead flow is consistent enough to where we can actually pull meaningful patterns out of the information. So it just gets me excited for having better systems as I'm building the plane as it's flying.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Okay. That's the final takeaway in this episode, in this series, is the bottom line, where it's real deals and real data. We're talking about the inner mind and all the things that really go into being a successful entrepreneur in the real estate space. If you enjoyed this, please leave us a 5-star review. And if you want us to tackle your question on this show, go ahead and click the link to submit a question, and we'll tackle it on the next one. Thanks for listening.